Whom do you follow? And that follow word is like this really broad word now in social media. But who do you look up to? What do you want to be like? Who are you looking to as your model? What do you copy without even realizing it? In today's visual age, we must be ever vigilant to evaluate what we are watching and listening to and being influenced by. We must consider whose agenda is underneath this. And so it is my prayer today that God will use Philippians chapter 3, verses 17 to 19 to awaken in us a powerful understanding of the importance of our response to examples around us. I'm going to outline 3 responses to examples to apply Paul's words for the good of all Christians in Philippians 3, 17 to 19. So turn there with me. It is essential to be an integral part of a local church where we do this together, where we function with practicing the mutual one another commands in relationships as vital parts of a living body where Christ is our head. And so this emphasis continues from verse 15 into verse 17 of Paul's brothers and sisters, and he calls them then imitate together, join in following the pattern. And you might note that first point then of verse 17 like this: commit with others to following good examples. Takeaway number 1 in response to this is commit with others to following good examples. Now, well, that's kind of obvious. Well, shouldn't we obviously follow good examples, not bad examples? Well, yeah, but we need to see how serious this is in the way that he states it. First, it's a command from God by His Spirit through the Apostle Paul. But it's a command that requires accountability. It requires community. Join together in this accountability. And it takes an informed diligence toward it. It's not something you merely try if you can find somebody. This is a devoted pursuit. Join together with brothers and sisters to intensely find and imitate after someone like Paul's example. That's point number 1. Commit with others to following good examples. Point number 2, care about others by fleeing bad examples. Care about others by fleeing bad examples. This applies to how each of us individually need to be aware of bad examples and flee them. That's kind of obvious, and not follow them. It applies to taking seriously our focus on following good examples, not lazily letting bad examples to snare us. But this also applies to our influence on others, our concern for others that should move us to genuine sorrow over the danger of sin and error and the destruction of bad examples. We want to care for others by fleeing bad examples. And verse 18 is where I gather that. If you think about it, verse 18 says, "For many walk, of whom I have often told you, and now tell you even weeping, that they are enemies of the cross of Christ." I phrase this point to care about others because Paul wrote it with tears. Tears of weeping, concern, burden over the danger of bad examples. Commit with others to following good examples and care about others by fleeing bad examples. And then thirdly and lastly this morning, clarify how others are foolishly lost examples. Point number 3, clarify how others are foolishly lost examples. And this is important because we're talking about eternity, being saved or lost. Hearing Jesus tell us the words, "Welcome, well done, good and faithful servant," or "Depart from me, I never knew you." "Come into the joy of your master," or "You fool, don't you know?" So we need to be clear about this. We need to clarify how the Bible describes the saved and the lost and discern the difference. We need to be able to sit down with an open Bible and slide it across the table to the person we're talking to and ask them, "Would you read those verses for yourself and tell me what God says in His book about you, about this situation?" We need to be able to help others to do that and discerning about the many subtle false teachers and deceptive bad examples that continue to exist. And we see how Paul did that in verse 19. He described them, whose end is destruction, whose God their appetite, whose glory is in their shame, who set their minds on earthly things. Clarify how others are foolishly lost examples so that you understand. Flee those bad examples for your own good and out of care about others. And then commit freshly, regularly to follow good examples. Those are principles for watching those you follow. They can be a daily guide and protection.